And welcome everyone to the Sarcophagus V2 development update. Pretty stoked to talk about some stuff today. Some things we're going to be covering is the new growth subDAO vote is live. It's live for a few more days, so get up there and vote. It's going to be some pretty exciting stuff happening there. The ambassador infrastructure updates recently passed on their snapshot. The transferable curses between arch nodes and as NFTs, which would also include some art if that's used in production. That's something that has been worked on a little bit lately. We'll be hearing about that. Some tests using bundlr for uploading files to Arweave on the back end of operations. So that's some other exciting stuff. So, hey, first in the community, the growth subDAO vote is now live, as we mentioned, so cast your vote. The subDAO will target growth of the Sarcophagus ecosystem in many aspects. There's going to be a council being formed out of the vault signers. These members will each have direct area of managing activities and outreach. These areas may include product use case research, documentation, business development, and more. And there is documentation up on that on the growth notion with links in the Discord channels and whatnot, and everything's being kept public so you can access that info. Bounty system is also going to be launched through DWork. We've got all of the framework in, and we'll be working here shortly to get up some bounties for some more atomic contributors in the community. The first phase of the growth subDAO is going to consist of a little bit lower funding for kickoff and focused mostly on research and documenting information related to how we can better present Sarcophagus as a solution to not just individuals, but we also want to start looking at organizations and professionals like lawyers and estate planners. So really trying to see how we can target these use case specific ideas and uses with the onboarding processes for each of them. And also recently the ambassadors passed a vote to update their infrastructure. The overall system and onboarding is now much simpler to understand for newer ambassadors and even community members that might be interested. The new structure is refocused on leadership and working with the existing community more. So a lot more with involvement within the community and passing off a little bit of the outreach stuff to the growth subDAO committee that's going to be created. Committee is not the right word, but now the builders will be talking about recent updates that I mentioned earlier.
I'll jump in here and kick this off. So one thing I just wanted to mention is we discussed on previous call the NFT support and functionality. We're dialing it back a little bit, or at least pivoting a little from our initial push on it. We a lot of the decisions we're making for the app are based around the idea that the embalmer is really the first class citizen, and so we want to keep costs as low as possible and try to keep the transactions as few as possible for the embalmer. So one step in that, we decided that it's not worth having the NFTs minted during the embalming process because right now the embalmer is paying for that. So what we're going to be doing is making it an opt-in for the archaeologists. They can opt to set a config variable or maybe just run a CLI command to mint their NFT. And Liv has been working on some really cool designs for how that's going to look. We had been doing on-chain NFT data. We may switch that to off-chain just for costs and because we can do some more dynamic things with the graphics that she's put together. So that's still in progress, but it will be taking a little bit more of a backseat as far as like core functionality. It's kind of like some sprinkles on the cake. If there are any questions about that, just holler at me. Let me know. I'm happy to answer anything.
I would just to add to that, like one of the goals of this is to make the rewraps as cheap as possible. Just because as we grow, we want people to be rewrapping more and more often. Say we have an automated rewrap of someone whenever they save their password manager file, it's going to fire a rewrap. And adding metadata to an NFT every time we did that would just get very, very expensive. So while I think it's a very cool idea, it's something that has more aesthetic value than functional value. So yeah, I think definitely making it a possibility. And again, those graphics are so cool, like the Uniswap V3 stuff. The Sarco one's even better. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But the idea is just let's make this as gas efficient as humanly possible.
And to piggyback on the rewrapping that you just mentioned, Zach, one thing we discussed pretty heavily last week about adding, and it looks like it is feasible, is the ability for embalmers to switch and update their set of archaeologists during rewrap. So in V1, you were stuck with the same archaeologist throughout the course of your sarcophagus. You could choose to bury your current sarcophagus in V1 and then create a new one with a different archaeologist if you wanted to sort of keep that Sarco going, keep that curse going. In V2, what we're looking at doing is switching it so that you could opt to not have to re-upload your file, not have to bury the sarcophagus, and actually just create a different set of archaeologists to continue from the point of rewrap. It still will be probably a multi-transaction process because we have to upload to Arweave, and it'll be very similar to the create sarcophagus process, but it's looking like we can implement that, so we'll begin development on that probably within the next month.
Very cool. I think it's that pushes to 2 points that are big for us: longevity, right? We want the system to be to have longevity and to be able to be malleable as new players come in and out of it. And then also, I think does go to the robustness of it, right? We can make something more robust when you don't have to be locked into a single provider forever. Say one bank merges with another bank, you don't trust the one it's merging with, but you trust the old one. You kind of want to take something away from that. So yeah, that's wonderful. I'm really glad that can be done properly.
Hey, you want to touch on the bundlr testing? How's that going? I read up a little bit on that, and I'm really curious to see how that's like working out.
Yeah, so for people that aren't familiar, bundlr is an L2 on Arweave, and as you know, Sarcophagus V1 uses Arweave as a core part of the system to get the payload uploaded in a place where it will live on forever. We were originally we're looking at having the idea of an Arweave archaeologist to sort of separate out the concern of what an archaeologist does into two parts for V2. And so really, I mean, at its core, it's a way for a user to pay currency that's not Arweave, so the embalmer doesn't need to hold Arweave. They can just hold ETH and get their file uploaded, so they don't have to there's just a lot of steps to have to go buy another currency and do all that stuff. So there's a service called bundlr, which I recommend anybody who's interested in this check out their Discord or check out their website because they have a lot of cool information there, and they just released their roadmap for the next year. They are an L2 for Arweave, and they're responsible for, they claim, about 90% of data that's currently uploaded to Arweave. So they use optimistic finality as the way that it works, the L2 works. And we've done a bunch of testing on it to see if we could use it in Sarcophagus. And so far, it's looking really promising. All the CLI, we were able to get it working. We were able to get it working in the browser, which is where it's going to have to work. But it's really cool. You can use a multitude of different currencies to upload files to Arweave. We'll probably just be using ETH to start with, but they have support for Solana and just probably Arbitrum, Optimism, some other L2s. So we realized we needed to sequence the Arweave transaction earlier in the embalming process in order for the archaeologist to see the data that's on there and sign off on it. In V1, we didn't need this to happen because it was just a single archaeologist doing this process. So when they got the data, they could just look at it. But in V2, a whole bunch of different archaeologists could potentially have to look at this data and sign off on it. So because we had to move this back in the process, that's when we realized, okay, if we're moving it back, why don't we re-look at this Arweave archaeologist idea we have, because it sort of becomes a separate process by itself, separate from embalming. So that's how we're treating it now. We will be using bundlr to start with. If we decide that bundlr doesn't meet our needs because it's too, not too centralized, if there's not enough bundlers and we really feel like it's not going to work for our launch, we do have backup plans. We could also offer the user, other choices. We could say, hey, if you want to use bundlr, click here to upload to Arweave. If you want to use an archaeologist, click here. That we'll kind of make the final decision on that down the line. But in the short term, we will be integrating bundlr as the Arweave upload platform. And we are involved in their Discord. We started to get involved with them just to understand, what their plan is for decentralization long term, and trying to stay active in the community because they do seem like they have a really cool product. So we would love to keep that relationship strong. I think those are the main points. I think there's other stuff happening in the dev sphere. If there's anything pointed questions that people have about anything in particular, I can answer them. But those are probably the main interesting things that are happening right now.
Bundlr stuff is super cool. I think also the ability to provide more feedback to the user on what's going on with the Arweave transaction. We're all used to what it's like to build stuff on Ethereum or to use Ethereum and be able to go check your account or whatever. But for Arweave, if the user doesn't have an Arweave account, they should still be able to see what's going on. So I know we talked about kind of giving more feedback to the user. at least in these initial stages as we go through debugging stuff. I think there was one other thing. It had to do with Arweave. I'm actually not sure. Never mind. Though I'm very glad to see the progress of Arweave. I mean, the ecosystem just keeps getting bigger. No one's going crazy. No one's doing any 3 arrows type shit. Like it seems to be a very robust and growing ecosystem. So very happy to see that happen.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing I would touch on would be Zach. We kind of did a long form meeting. I want to say a month back, maybe a little longer, regarding some community governance incentives. Adam and I have, I'm sorry, Trainface and I, sorry for doxing you, Adam, I know you're not here. Trainface and I have been working on tech spec for that, and we've gotten a lot of the details worked out. So over the course of the next month, we'll begin development on those as well. But Zach will be working alongside you to make sure that the direction and what we're putting together there makes sense. It pretty much follows your architecture that you first laid out, but that will be coming up in the next month.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's one of the first moves in terms of like getting people more involved. Right now, I think it's really hard for everyone to say like go and sign a transaction or contribute their tokens to the governance app, because what do you get for, like, if you're not a large holder, what do you get in exchange for locking your tokens into a governance app? Like, you kind of only get contract risk. So we definitely need to work on that. But yeah, I think the things that we're doing are conservative, and just trying to make sure that we get more and more people involved in a way that makes them kind of to the best of their ability, or to the best of the time they're willing to contribute. So it seems to be working. As obviously we can get into the growth subDAO stuff in a minute. But yeah, I think we're at a good point right now. Crypto winter still seems like it's here. My prediction is that we have a lot more pain left, and we might have another couple of years of this winter. But I think we need to keep building like usual and just kind of more solidify the core team with a lot of conservative economics. And I think that's where we're at right now.
Awesome. And I brought Miguel up. I didn't know if you wanted to touch on the growth subDAO a little bit while we had the chance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so the growth subDAO work that we are trying to put together is being finalized in a proposal right now up in the main DAO. And I missed the first minute or two of the talk, but not sure if it got mentioned. But yeah, we have a DAO up in the DAO vote on the Aragon app right now for the growth subDAO. And basically what we're trying to do is kind of target a couple of things, is do some active research, figure out what the market looks like, and how we fit in as a solution to what we're offering with Sarcophagus as a dead man switch, decentralized dead man switch. And also trying to slowly build outreach, build relationships, and then ultimately, once we kind of get a better idea of where we fit in the marketplace, have a way to market appropriately to our targeted users that we think would be best served by the app. So some of the things that we're trying to work and cook up in the growth subDAO are a couple of those things. And I mean, so for any of you guys who have tokens in the governance app, please go and cast your vote, whether you support or not support it, and so we can kind of get going in this space and see where we can go and take as we're getting closer and closer to finalizing some of the movement and development with the DApp itself.
Awesome. Really exciting stuff. Thanks for that, Miguel.
One other thing I just wanted to call out is something, that's going to be on our minds eventually as we get closer to launch of V2 is both web app security as well as web app decentralization. I think, we've seen stuff happening in the ecosystem related to potentially front ends being either compromised or potentially have a single point of failure. And so we do just want to start to think about how do we game plan both of those scenarios. And that's not something we've really done any work on yet. It's something that I think is important for this project going forward.
I can't agree with you more here. I think, starting with unupgradable contracts, right? Like, so we push a contract out, it lives forever, like the Uni V2 stuff. And then all the way through to front-end decentralization. I think, with Arweave, we do have a leg up. Most other people are still thinking IPFS is the solution for this, and we know better than that. So I think that's really part of the ethos from the very beginning. I forget who it was, but someone had done some work on getting an archaeologist to work on Tor. I'm not a huge fan of Tor anymore, but the idea behind that being that you can use this from anywhere. So yeah, I think front-end decentralization is going to be very big, including making the web app as simple as humanly possible and weigh as little as possible. We do have reasons for doing that other than just making it aesthetically pleasing. Using as few libraries as possible, all the little chinks in the armor that it would be an issue. So I think it's very, very high on my list of things that we need to focus on. Decentralization being one of them. Decentralization while still being able to build something. Like we released V1 and those contracts are unupgradable. It's not going anywhere, whatever. But we really want to make it clear that people can interact with this regardless of if Sarcophagus goes away, right? Like if there is no longer Sarcophagus the DAO, but there's the contracts and the archaeologists, it all still works as if we were there. So we should ideally be building this to forget ourselves as it matures. But we're just in that kind of weird in-between growth stage right now where we have to be actively supporting things, we have to be actively pushing stuff. But hopefully at maturity, we can kind of all do hands off and just watch the market naturalize all these curves or normalize all these curves and get into a place where the services are being exchanged for a standard market rate, which I think we'll settle on pretty quickly once we get to volume.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone.
That's all I've got for today. Johnny, I was going to say is if there's anything else, we can always cut this short, but I'm not sure if we got anything else today.
No, that you guys covered it all really well. All the recent updates, everything that's been happening with the testing and the launch. I was able to actually get on the GitHub and fool around with one of the test interfaces that they're working with right now. It's some pretty exciting stuff. Liv's been dropping some artwork for just kind of visual stuff on when people are setting their timers for the sarcophagi, like a little bit of visual help with everything. So everything's coming along, and it's really exciting to be a part of and watch, and really appreciate everyone coming together today and getting on stage and talking about this. And if there's any questions anyone has, now would be the time to field them. If not, thanks everyone for being here, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Thanks so much, Johnny, for putting this together.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Johnny. Anything else? You hit me up on Discord. So see y'all. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.